welcome back everybody. I'm here to do a movie review. So of course the movie I'm going to be reviewing, as the title suggests, is No Time to Die. It's the newest James Bond film in the franchise. I saw it about a week ago, and I'll just say now there are major spoilers ahead. Like, all the spoilers. So if you haven't seen it yet, you probably do not want to watch this review. You have been warned. So let me just say that I enjoyed the movie at first, and then the ending happened. Before I tell you exactly how I feel about it, let me kind of run through a little bit of the synopsis and things that stood out to me, and because I really want to focus on the ending. So James Bond, Daniel Craig, honestly, is probably my favorite portrayal of Bond. I grew up with Pierce Brosnan. I've seen, Sean Connery. I enjoy the Bond films, but I really like Daniel Craig because Casino Royale to me was just like a phenomenal movie. To me, it was like an amazing James Bond movie and just a really cool spy movie in general. I loved it when it came out. It was so good. I like that there's more of a complexity to his character, I feel like, in this series of films. And so I find Bond and the character Madeline, who he's with at the beginning of No Time to Die, to be interesting characters, because in this movie we also get to see her backstory a little bit at the beginning of the movie, which also sets up the new villain, Safin. As we progress, we see why they have certain fears that they have and trust issues. So because of those trust issues, there's a moment in the film where Bond goes to visit Vesper's grave. In this series of films, Vesper is his first true love, someone that he actually cares about and is not just using to try and get information out of, which I will point out is another reason why I like this version of Bond. It shows the consequences of that kind of lifestyle. And it doesn't portray it as like, oh, you can just use whoever you want and fornicate with whoever you want, and there's no problem. It's no big deal. Everyone does it. It's like, no, we all know that stuff like that causes deep emotional issues, because we all know it's not that simple, okay? It's relationship, it's connection, and improperly going about those relationships has damaging effects. Back to the story. So the grave blows up. He finds a little Spectre card at the grave, and he thinks that Madeline's betrayed him. He thought he could totally trust her. They were gonna, retire and live their lives in happiness, but no, he has to go through this crazy action sequence, get back to her and try and figure out what's going on. But even if she were to tell him, he probably wouldn't trust her. And it was a great action sequence, by the way. I will say it started out with a bang, some really cool stunts. I don't know how often they use a stunt double or not, but on the close-ups, he brings the intensity and the performance and the choreography. He puts Madeline on a train and is like, I'm never gonna see you again, basically, because he doesn't trust her, and she's heartbroken. So now it's 5 years later, and this is where the meat of everything starts happening. We find out that there's this engineered bioweapon that Safin, the villain that was introduced at the beginning of the film in Madeline's backstory, he has a contact where this bioweapon has been made by this Russian scientist. And then we come to find out as the movie goes on that M from MI6 was apparently the one who decided to engineer this bioweapon in the first place, but the idea was that it wouldn't be a bioweapon, but it would be a way for them to do good things. So his idea was to use it for positive effects somehow, which aren't explained super well. So Bond needs to save the world. Felix Leiter, who's a great character, decides that the CIA is gonna ask him for help, try and get him out of retirement. Doesn't really work at first, but then Bond, obviously through circumstance and certain scenes and just people knowing who he is, wanting to take him out, he gets involved. There's this scene where Bond goes to a party with all the Spectre agents. Bond makes it out alive. He kind of regroups with Felix Leiter and this other agent that he has with him. We come to find out that that agent actually is betraying Bond and Felix, which is really annoying, obviously, but because of that, through circumstance, Felix dies. And that's really frustrating, because I like Felix Leiter. I like his relationship with Bond, but obviously he's not Bond. He's not, the main character. I get it. And it was interesting because for me, I was like, okay, well, people die sometimes. People fall in the line of duty. Felix dying was, although maybe a little frustrating, it obviously pushed Bond forward even more. He knew that he had to save the day. He knew that he had to join in the fight, but this was personal. It was already personal because it was Blofeld and other things. But we see throughout these films that Bond has a tendency to lose the things he loves. And when that happens, he gets a little fire inside of him. So I was like, okay, you know, if that helps get the job done, not super happy that he died, but let's make the best out of it, essentially, if you can do something like that. There's an interrogation scene with Bond and Blofeld, and we come to find out that he was communicating with Spectre agents through a bionic eye while he was in prison. Someone in another video that I watched, and people have talked about this kind of stuff in other reviews, so it wasn't strictly, I didn't say it first, but I definitely was thinking about this while I watched it. I was like, how? Like, he's been in prison for years, and he's been isolated, yet they have Madeline, who was his like psychologist or whatever, meet with him personally. It's like, you mean to tell me for multiple years that MI6, with all of their technology, have not been able to like scan him in some way, to like look him over and make sure he doesn't have anything hidden? I just had a really hard time believing that. That was, again, very old school Bond, cheesy moment, but still, I had a hard time kind of getting past that. So now we're getting near the end. Bond has actually reconnected with Madeline. He sees that she has a daughter. She insists, no, it's not your daughter. Obviously, she is. So now we're at the end where Bond and 007, who, her character name I think is Nomi or Naomi, she gives the title back to him, whatever. They've teamed up. MI6 has brought Bond back on, and they're like, all right, let's go to the compound, the island, the facility where Safin is with the bioweapon. We gotta take him out. We gotta take out the weapon. So they go in, you know, there's some cool action sequences. There's some monologues from the villain that are fairly interesting. And we get to the point where it looks like Bond is essentially won. And he realizes finally that the little girl actually is his daughter, so he's got something to fight for. He finds out that Madeline never betrayed him because Blofeld admitted to Bond that that never happened. And so he's like dedicated to save the day. It looks like it's all good. They get on I think a boat or something. They get off the island, and he finds her little doll that fell on the floor, and he's gonna pick it up and bring it back to her. Well, he gets shot by Safin. He breaks his arm. They get in this fight, and then Safin had this vial of the bioweapon specifically engineered to Bond's DNA and Madeline's and the little girl, and he like breaks it on him. So we find out at this moment that this is a terrible thing. From earlier in the movie, Q explains to Bond that if you get the bioweapon on you, it never leaves your system. The nanobots stay in there forever. There's no way to get them out. So whoever has the control panel basically for these nanobots or whatever, they can engineer it in a way that you can be deadly to anyone who has the same DNA as you. So that's essentially what Safin has done with this vial. And I am really annoyed by that explanation, because Q says it, I think, like 2 times in the movie. He says it when they first find out about the bioweapon, and then he like reiterates it at some point near the end. And the whole point of this is to, I think, give you some sense of being okay with how they end the movie. So if you've made it through all these spoilers, if you've gotten to this point and you don't want to know how it ends, you need to click off right now, because here it goes, guys. They kill James Bond. James Bond dies. It's not just that he dies, they kill him, they obliterate him. Because the whole thing is, he's wounded, and they're trying to tell him to get off the island, but he's already called in the airstrike. Bond himself called in the airstrike, and there was only a certain amount of time. And so he knows that because he's wounded, that he can't get off. But Madeline still presses him, and she realizes that he's been poisoned, and so she understands what's going through his mind of like, oh, I can never see Madeline, and I can never see my daughter, you know, ever again, because we'll kill each other basically if we come into contact. And so she tries to tell him, she's like, James, no, there's a way. She's like, there's always a way. And I was like, thank you. Someone has some hope. That's how I felt. I was like, yeah, James, there's always a way. Don't listen to Q. What does he know? He didn't make the weapon. And he only looked at it for what, 10 minutes? Or whoever, hours, I don't know. Doesn't matter. He didn't make the weapon. I know he's a techie guy, but it's not just nanotechnology. It's like biology. It's like so complicated. I just thought it was really arrogant for him to just say, it's in there forever, there's no way to fix it. It's like technology doesn't change, it doesn't grow. Like, huh. I didn't realize everything was just as you say. So whatever. So the point of that was all to just get us to be okay with the fact that they're about to kill Bond. And that somehow it's almost the right thing to do, right? Because he doesn't want to harm them. But as another video pointed out, which I thought was hilarious, and not that I totally agree, it was meant to be a joke, but it was like, well, can't he just see them through glass? Can't they just see, like, no one wants that, but it's like, isn't it better than just dying and leaving your child fatherless? No? So, I don't know, guys. And it wasn't just that he died, like, he got obliterated by these missiles, like, and they show it. They show these missiles rain down on him and he's just gone, eviscerated. I was like, what? It just didn't seem tactful in any way. It was like, in case you were wondering that he survived, in case you thought he might have got off the island somehow, nope, we're gonna show it. And I was just so frustrated. I was so frustrated. Like, this movie was pretty decent, but that ending just like made it really difficult for me. I don't know if I've ever gotten up from my seat once the credits started rolling so quickly as I have after seeing that movie. Like, I was like, I had to calm down. Like, I was really, which is funny because, like I mentioned earlier, like, I'm not a huge James Bond fan per se, but I am a fan of these films. I am a fan of Daniel Craig, and I thought it was kind of cheap, and I thought that the studio or whoever decided to make this decision was going to play it off like artistic or realistic or, oh, that makes sense, or like, he's been through so much pain, like somehow this was like giving him a sense of peace, like he doesn't have to fight anymore. And I was like, that's just so baloney, man. Like, this character has had 25 films. I feel bad for James Bond fans, for crying out loud. It's like killing Batman or Superman or something. It's like, you don't do that, because also with comic books, they always come back to life. You know, like, in some way. Or there's hope, you know, like, that they will. There was no hope here. It was just like, no, he's dead. And I was like, that like, why would you do that? Why do films, I've noticed, especially probably over the last 5 years, it's like they have to be super serious or super realistic, or they take the characters we love and they just kill them. And what for? It's to make way for something else, right? Something new. And you could argue, oh yeah, they're just gonna do a new James Bond, no big deal. It's like, no. They'll do a new James Bond, but it won't be James Bond. It won't be what you knew. It won't be what you liked about him. They're gonna try and put, you know, their cultural ideas, their ideological, political ideas onto the character. And not that they haven't done that previously, but it'll just be more overt. It won't be entertaining. It's not what we like. It's not why we go to see films. It's not why we go to see stories like this. We go to see films to see good triumph, okay? Now, I'm not saying I don't like films like this. Let's just say, let's substitute Bond for a different spy character. I probably would have liked this movie a lot more, okay? I wouldn't have loved it, but I would have been more okay with the ending, all of that stuff. Because sometimes you have one-off stories, and again, you want to see sometimes a story that's more realistic. But we know going in that this is James Bond, okay? This is not random spy movie. This is not random franchise or whatever. This is James Bond. James Bond wins. That's how it works. So I don't go to a James Bond movie hoping for closure. And even if I do, not that. Like, we want the kind of closure that is like, oh, he saved the day again and he's happy now. He's fought for so long to trust people. He's fought for so long to figure out why he keeps fighting all this. Like, he's complex, and like, why can't he have a happy ending? You know, because you could argue that the other ones were only happy in the sense that he didn't die, but they're not even always the happiest of endings. It's just, he has to keep pressing forward. This could have been the happy ending. You know, it could have been like, oh, James Bond goes off into the sunset with Madeline and his daughter, and they live happily ever after until he's rebooted, you know, as a different actor. It's like, we can't have that? I don't understand why that's such a problem. I don't understand why it's cooler that he dies. Because that's how it felt. It's like, well, yeah, he loves them and all this, and this is good. They're trying to satisfy so many things at one time, while also, like I said, ushering in whatever agenda they have planned next for these Bond films. But he had to still seem cool somehow. And I guess loving people, genuinely, being in an actual committed relationship, being a father, I guess that's just not cool. And that's how it felt. I just felt like it was a slap in the face to to what I believe and and my morals. And like I said, if it was a different film, a different character, I might not have cared so much. But it's like, this is who I know James Bond to be, is the hero who wins. And in this series of Daniel Craig Bond films, I wanted to see that triumphant closure. But it's like, no, we get a victory, but then you're left with this sense of like hopelessness almost. And they try to feed you, I think it's an Ian Fleming line. They try to make it seem like, oh, like, what a man. And she says something to her daughter like, I'm gonna tell you a story about a man named James Bond. Like, the legend lives on. Like, that's enough. Like, again, I might be making too much out of it, and so I'm sorry if I am. But man, it just kind of was a bummer. Like, so it also makes the title of the movie really silly to me. No Time to Die. I was like, well, that's exactly what he does. I don't know if you're trying to be clever or again, just have a cool Bond title, but it annoyed me. It's like, No Time to Die. Okay, whatever. So obviously I feel very strongly about it. And I'm gonna point one thing out too, because again, I like to think about films, and I know they're not perfect, but what annoyed me about Q and in this whole situation of like, you can never figure this out, whatever, is he gives Bond an EMP watch at a certain point, which detonates this guy's bionic eye that's trying to kill him. That works, but it doesn't kill the nanobots. But they don't explain that, and they don't really have time, I guess. From all the other spy movies, science fiction movies, EMP generally works on stuff like that. I would have at least liked some kind of line being like, oh yeah, even this won't work because of whatever reason you have a bioelectric field in your body that will shield the nanobots. Like something, like, there you go, Hollywood, hire me as a writer. I solved it for you. But I don't know, it felt a little lazy, and the killing Bond felt very intentional. It didn't feel like it was a natural conclusion. It was like, we're purposefully doing this, and we're gonna try and make everybody okay with it, which made me not okay with it because I was very aware of that fact. But so I will say, listen, if you want to watch it, okay? I'm not saying it's the worst movie ever. It is good acting, it's paced well, great cinematography, all of that stuff. It's just, I hated the ending. I just did not like it, and I even at first was like, I'm not gonna watch this movie again. But after I relaxed a little bit, I thought, you know, I might watch it again. But I will say, if I do watch it again, I'm for sure turning it off before the ending, and the happy ending will live in my mind and in my heart, because that's just what I want to do. So that may seem a little silly, but that's just the way it is, guys. I'd love to know what you thought about the movie. I'd love if you've got any cool comments or ideas or thoughts about the storyline, the characters, or if you liked the ending. I would like to know, but I'd like to know why. So please let me know. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with people. As always, guys, thank you for your time. Thank you for watching the video. Be blessed, and I'll see you in the next one.